Hey Hamilton, welcome back to another version of Virtual Coffee with a Cop. Thank you for the short delay we have there. As you can see, we're out in Lake Ontario, and I'm here with one of the Marine officers. This is Officer Mark Phibbs. Mark, good day.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thanks
no
for having me on.
Welcome
I'm really
to the show.
excited about this.
Yeah, this is a fantastic year. We've got some great weather today, so this is a good day to talk about boat safety.
Yeah, perfect day.
So we're obviously, as you can see, like I said, we are out here in Lake Ontario, and we want to give you some tips today about boating safety. Mark, there's a lot of things that we could talk about, I guess, with boat safety. What's some of the number one things that the public needs to know before they come out to the waterways?
I think the main thing is just you want to check your safety equipment before you get on the water. Don't wait till we stop you and make you check the equipment. There's a chance then that you're going to receive a fine for not having the proper safety equipment on board. Yeah. So while you're at home, before you come out to the water, go through your safety equipment. Make sure your flashlight works in your safety kit, and make sure you have enough life jackets or PFDs for people. Prepare, take a little more time to prepare. We find there's a lot of people that seem to just come out, drop a boat in, and away you go.
Yeah, and I would assume know where it is on your boat, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
A big thing is, do you have, yeah, I do. Where is it? Where did I keep it last time?
Yep.
Is it in the same spot? Did you take it out, right? Things like that, I think are
a lot of people take stuff out over the winter, right? They don't want their life jackets or PFDs getting moldy, so they take them out. It's preparation.
Yeah.
It goes right into probably the next point is the wind and water. Before you come out, check the weather. We're on Lake Ontario. It's a massive, great lake. This is not a lake that you want to come out when you're not prepared. So yeah, I think it's one of those things that you just got to check the weather, check the wind, know whether it's the wind's blowing you back towards shore. So if your boat stops, then you have the ability to float.
And with that, as you can see, we are rocking a little bit today. It's rather calm out here today, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Lake Ontario is one of those lakes that can pick up some big swells pretty quick. And you get out here, and what are you going to do, right?
That's it. Weather changes in a hurry out here.
Yeah. So, in keeping with that theme, what about inflatables?
So inflatables will become a huge issue, and from talking to other services, it's not just in Hamilton, but people are coming out to the water, blowing up these large inflatables, and they just kind of get on them and start floating. Lots of times you'll see they'll have a paddle or something just to kind of guide them. But again, this lake is just too nasty to be coming out here when you're not prepared. What happens is if we have an offshore wind, then they'll come out, they'll start floating, and you don't realize you kind of start floating out further and further and further, and then they start paddling in and they realize they're not going anywhere except further out. So some of the things, it might seem like overkill, but if you're going out on a flotation device, you should still have life jackets, PFDs. If you have a cell phone, so you can call 911 if you get yourself in trouble. Again, back to preparation, right? If you're watching the weather and you see that the weather is blowing you offshore, then stay real close to shore, right? And make sure that you have the ability to get back or flag somebody down, because that's what happens. They blow out so far that people on the shore can't see them. They don't realize that they're calling for help. So keep that in mind.
And they're not really made for this open water, are they?
No.
Those giant inflatables are made for pools and rivers and areas not quite like this, right?
100%.
With these conditions. So, make sure you check that and listen to these good ideas, right? Before you come out here, and know what kind of swimmer you are. I think that's important, right?
Yes.
How many people come out into a big body of water on one of these inflatables, and they're not very good swimmers?
The stuff that we've seen out here is incredible, right? We've seen people that, physically we can hardly get them from the inflatable onto our boat. And we think, well, if you're physically not able to do some of that stuff, are you going to be able to swim against the current for, you know what I mean? If that thing pops, if it blows over and it floats away from you. So again, it's... Yeah.
And they're basically a giant sail out here, right?
Yeah.
They're light, they're a big, a big item. And once that wind gets a hold of you, you'll make it out into the middle of the lake pretty quick, I think.
And
right?
they're not like a kayak or canoe where they're pointed to cut through the water. They're meant to float on top of it. So even if you have paddles, trying to paddle that it's way harder than any kayak or canoe, which is another thing that just causes issues.
And I think that's fantastic, right? And I know several times you mentioned it, is PFDs, right?
Yep.
What is a PFD? What's a good PFD? Maybe talk us through a little bit of, safety in the water and
Okay.
these devices we're wearing today and some other devices, and really what's the minimum and what should people expect?
Okay, so obviously if you're on a boat, you should have one of either life jacket or PFD for every person on board that's sized adequately. So obviously you can't have a child on board and have a adult size life jacket for them, right? So that's common sense, but it's one of those things you see a lot. Oh yeah, I have 6 life jackets on board, but they're not the right size. So that's something to keep in mind. PFD versus a life jacket. So the PFD it's something that there's all different colors. They're the more popular ones. They're meant to be worn for, you see people on Sea-Doos wearing them, that kind of stuff. The life jackets are just orange, red, or yellow, and they're made to, so if you fall in, they'll roll you onto your back. But the PFD doesn't do that, right? So they're more made to keep you afloat. If you are unconscious, then life jacket's the only that's gonna roll you over and save your life that way. But
Yeah.
in general, the other thing we say is like you need to know where they are. Just going back to your equipment, know where they are in your boat, because guess what happens? You need them for in an emergency. You don't want to have to dig through way down in the bow of the boat, and you want to be able to access them quickly and easily, and wear them. Like, as much as I'm saying access them quickly and easily, the safest thing to do is wear them.
Yeah.
We see all the time small children not wearing them on boats, and no, they don't have to, but is it smart? Absolutely, right? Like if somebody falls out of the boat because you hit a big wave and it's a child, like you want them wearing life jackets. We
Yeah.
want everyone wearing life jackets. It's not something we can enforce, but we preach, like, wear a life jacket. It's going to save your life if you're wearing it, or a PFD, right? If you're wearing it. If it's not on you and you go in the water, it's no good to you there.
No, which makes a good point, right? You don't want to wait until somebody falls in the water to, one, where is that life jacket that they need, and be trying to find it. You're taking your eyes off the person who fell in. Did they go under? Where did they go?
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of things that can happen. It's very dynamic out here,
Absolutely.
right? You're not on land. You can't just see somebody, right? They can go under the water. If you're in a boat, they can go under the boat. So many things
Absolutely.
can happen. So I think those are really good tips, right? And then even the tips about the different types of life jacket, PFD, right?
Yeah,
those
a lot
things.
of a lot of new ones. You know what? So what we're seeing is paddle boarders are, it's a real popular sport now. People are going out all the time. A lot of times they're going out, they want to get a tan while they're out doing it, so they don't want to wear a big bulky life jacket. Well, they do sell them now, where they're like what we're wearing. These are auto inflators, so if we go in the water, then that's when they'll activate. So they sell them for people on the paddle boards where they can put them around their waist. They look like a fanny pack. So it's something like that where you're like, okay, you don't want to wear that because of the comfort, and you're trying to paddle, and a life jacket or PFD might rub. But then there's other, so just look into it, right? Look into what you feel is going to work best for you.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? The sport you're doing in the water, you want to have that right device. Just like if you were buying a boat, you want the right boat for what you want to do. Think about that with your safety equipment, right?
Yeah.
And look at it. It's an inexpensive item in my mind to save my life, right?
Absolutely. And you have to have something, so get something that's comfortable so you want to wear it.
Exactly, and something that's going to fit your need and work for what you need it to work for. And that goes, like you said, I've seen a lot of people with boats having the right size device, right? Whether it's a PFD or a life jacket. A lot of people, well, I have this one from years ago. It doesn't really kind of fit, but you know what? They're sitting on it. It's under. Have one that fits, because, if you've been in the water with one on, right? I swim in the water all the time. I swim in this lake. I wear a device. I wear a PFD. It fits me. It fits me right. So I feel very comfortable when I'm in the water that if I'm tired and I just want to float and hang out, it's going to hold me up and it's going to save me, right? And I think that's really important, because when you're out here, panic can set in, and then what do you do?
That's it. Nobody prepares for the worst, right? They just, we're going out for a day on the boat. We have to have life jackets, but be prepared. Like it's so many bad things can happen so quickly out here.
And that's kind of the bad side of things. But when you think about it, when you prepare properly for that, you have a better time in the boat.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's safe. You have a great time, and nobody gets injured. So when you get back to the shore at the end of the day, you had a good time and you're ready to do it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic.
One of the other things is Sea-Doos. So we're having a heck of a time with Sea-Doers, and one of the issues is that so many people are buying with with the pandemic, so many people in the last couple of years have bought Sea-Doos. So it's really more of an etiquette thing, but it's also dangerous around swim areas. We're finding that we're getting a lot of complaints about people being on the beach, hanging out, go out, jump on a Sea-Doo, and because Sea-Doos can go in a lot shallower or easy, they're usually in close to shore. Sometimes they just run them up on the beach. They turn around and come out. Instead of easing out because of swimmers, people on paddle boards, kayakers, instead of just easing out and going out into the middle of the lake, like we understand that they're made to rip around on. We're just asking people to get away from shore, get away from people. The lake is huge. You can see out here, you can't even see a boat when you look in some directions. Like go to those areas. You want to rip around, do some donuts, that's the place to do it. These people that are coming out and they're ripping around shorelines or they're getting on that thing and they're just full tilt out of there, those are the people that we're looking for and that we'll be doing enforcement on for the rest of the summer, because that's just not acceptable, right? You can't get on the Sea-Doos and drive in and out of swimming areas. It's just too dangerous, right? People could be underwater. All of a sudden they pop up and you're right there. So we're just asking people. We're getting a ton of complaints, and it's something that I honestly believe it's more of an etiquette thing than people don't realize that they're not supposed to do that.
It's a courtesy, right?
It's courtesy.
You
100%.
want to have a good time. Everybody's in the water
and
for
it's
a good
safety
time.
though, right? It's courtesy with a whole lot of safety issues mixed in there. So we are out and around these swim areas all the time, and we're watching for people on these Sea-Doos that are acting that way, because it's such a safety concern that.
And I know you say Sea-Doo, right? But that goes beyond
personal watercraft.
The Sea-Doo brand or whatever, any of the stand-up, anything motor powered that's out here. And Sea-Doos portion of watercraft have changed over the years, right?
Yes.
How fast are they today?
So fast,
right?
Like so powerful.
Before you buy one, the safety thing, and we do talk a lot about safety, right? Make sure you know what you're getting into, right? Like
the
buy the
rentals
equipment.
And the rentals are the other issue with them, right? They're being rented off the beach. People don't even have the proper license, or competency to go out.
Yes.
But they can just sign a waiver and away they go, right?
Yeah,
so they have no idea how to operate this thing. They're learning how to operate something that goes 100 kilometers an hour on the water in a Great Lake. It's just, it's scary. And it's something that, again, we're stopping those people to make sure that they have the proper safety gear and that they're at least to try to educate them. If they're not,
you want to have a better time?
Yes.
Educate, prepare, and you'll have a better time, right? The last thing that anybody wants is you guys rolling up and then walking home with a fistful of tickets, right?
And
because
the
they
tickets
were unprepared, they didn't know, and they got it. And now speaking of tickets, right? You are out here on the water, not just to wave at people, right?
Yeah,
we have laws, we have water laws, we have all kinds of things. You're out here enforcing the laws, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And
there's every different boat and watercraft has different rules and regulations. So it's one of those things where that's why you need to know what you need for your boat. And we're out here and we're stopping people to do safety checks. We're stopping people that are driving the way they shouldn't be driving in areas that are unsafe. And enforcement is part of our job, right? It's not the part that we all love and want to do, but when people aren't prepared and you can tell that some people come out and the boat hardly runs and they're out here and they don't have anything. Those are the people that we're looking for to get them off the water. Because
it's an education piece, right?
We try to educate as much as we can.
You get out there and you want to inform people the proper things to do so that they don't have to run into you, so they have a better time. Nobody gets injured, right?
That's it.
And they're not injuring somebody else. I think that's one of the most important things, right?
Yes.
And how about alcohol?
When I started in this job, I thought alcohol would be more of an issue on the water. I think, maybe cottage country, it's a little bit different here. We're out here every day. It's a large area, but with us, Halton's next door. There's always police in the area, and we don't find it to be as much of an issue as I thought it might be starting this unit. But we do still run into it where people are packing coolers, and most boats, like if you don't have a bathroom and a fixed stove, then you can't have alcohol in your boat, right? And I know there's a rule you can transport it, but really you can't have it. If you have a bow rider, you can't have a cooler full of beer or a cooler full of liquor on your boat. So again, that's something we're out here, and if we catch you, we're enforcing it, right? So and impaired is, some people also may not realize, but if you get impaired on the water, it's the same as an impaired in your vehicle, right? So if you're out here and you're driving around impaired and we stop you, then Like, you're going to be arrested.
Does that take your driver's license away?
It takes your driver's license away. So
wow.
even if you get impaired on a boat, you will not be able to drive a vehicle
For
on the
whatever
road.
the time is. And
Yep. Yeah. So there's a few different rules, but that part's the same. It's obviously we can't.
So that's important to think about, right? Before you come out here, you want to have a good time. It's summer, it's sunny, right?
Yep.
Let's grab some brews. Let's go out in the water. How is that going to affect me in the future if I have too much to drink, right?
Yep.
So
dangerous
we always
and,
recommend
and expensive if you get caught, right? The same old. It's a criminal record. It's the same thing as when you're doing it in a car.
Yep. Now we talk about rules and regulations. Where can people go to find this information?
Transport Canada has a great website. So if you go on to Transport Canada, you can maneuver through the website and it'll have all the answers that you need for safety equipment. For one of the big things is a boat license is not like a driver's license in a car. So this is one thing that we run into a fair amount. So a boat license is actually the license for the boat. That's the numbers on the side of a boat. So anything over 10 horsepower has to have a license. You have to carry that license with you, which is one of those things that a lot of people don't realize, but you need to carry that license with you on the boat. And then there's a competency. So that's your PCOC, so Pleasure Craft Operator's Card, or competency card. So when you get that, you need that for anything motorized. So, for example, we rescued a gentleman last week that he had a little 2.5 horsepower motor on a small 12-foot dinghy, and he went out and it broke down, and we had to rescue him and his son. So he didn't have a competency because he read that you didn't need a license for anything under 10 horsepower. Okay, so that's the one thing is when people go on, they really need to realize the difference between the two. If your boat has a motor, if it's a piece of dock, like I was up at the cottage last week, I saw a guy with a big square floating dock and he had a motor on the back of it. Like, you need a license for that if it's over 10 horsepower, and you need to have a competency card with you.
Yeah, sure.
So,
and I think it's important, right? I mean, along with that competency card, it's not just about getting the card. When you do that, when you get that license, it talks about dinghies and buoys and waterways and right-of-ways and, so things that you should know whether you actually require that card for your piece of equipment or not. It helps you navigate the waters out here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're at the cottage and you're in a little bay, you're not going to run into those things, right? Or on a river somewhere.
Yep.
But out here in the big lake, you're going to find a lot of that stuff, right?
Yep.
Big boats, freighters. Well, which way do I go? Who has that? And that card,
right away. No, it teaches you all that stuff.
That card really helps you navigate that. So again, you're safe and everybody else is safer, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent.
One more thing, if you don't mind, just Star 16 is one of those things that I try to educate every person that I talk to. Are you aware of Star 16? So the Coast Guard, if you're on your cell phone and you hit Star 16, Star 16, that'll take you directly to the Coast Guard. So what that does is it allow them to put something out on the VHF. So if somebody is in the area, it doesn't even have to be us, right? But if you just have if your boat breaks down and you're out here, well, there's boats all around you. You go Star 16, you explain to them where you are, they'll put it out on the VHF, and then maybe it's as easy as somebody's driving by and hears and like, oh, that looks like that boat, and they can stop and help you. So it's one of those things where when it's not an emergency especially, you can use it, but even if it is, then you're always welcome to use it. But again, if it's an emergency, we prefer you just call 911 so we can, because if we're at the other end of our area, it takes some time, especially if it's real rough. So.
Yeah, nope, that's fantastic ideas, right? So always check Transport Canada online, right? Make sure you have the proper equipment and information for your vessel you have and for what you plan on doing out on the water that day. You have 911 in all emergencies, and now you have Star 16 just to get a little help if you need just a little bit of help.
Yep.
Mark, I want to thank you very much. And Hamilton, stay tuned because today we actually have two guests.
Yeah,
it is National Drowning Awareness Week. So we have another officer who wants to talk about that and give you some tips about when you're in the water and drowning awareness. So stand by and we'll be back in just a sec. All right, Hamilton, we're back. And as you can see, my guest here has changed. This is Officer Rob Young, and he's with the Marine Unit as well. And Rob wanted to talk about a little different topic today, which is good, I think. It's a special week, right?
Sure is. This is National Drowning Prevention Week all across Canada, which is particularly important week, especially over the last few years. There's been an increased presence of people out on the water, and unfortunately that has come with increased rates of emergency calls and drownings on the water as well.
Yeah, and as we spoke in the first part of this segment, having a good time on the water is really important, but safety is always really important, right?
Can't have a good time without having a safe time.
You got it, right? So what can we tell people? I mean, we're on a big body of water here, right? This is not like swimming in your pool in your backyard.
It's really important to remember some of the specific dangers that come with being on a Great Lake. These aren't exclusive to Lake Ontario, but that's the water we deal with, so that's what we'll focus on. These lakes are so big, they're essentially inland seas. And given the size of these lakes, they present the risk of hypothermia year-round. The water in this lake, as we sit on it right now, is cold enough to induce hypothermia if your exposure time was long enough. This isn't something that people have to worry about when they're in a lake in the Muskokas or on a smaller, more shallow river. But here in Lake Ontario, even in the middle of July and August, you can get hypothermic relatively quickly.
Yeah, and I'm sure anybody who swam in this lake, and I have, can agree with that statement. It never warms up.
No.
It always feels cold.
And the surface may be a little bit warmer, but once you're a few feet below the surface where the sun doesn't have the ability to heat that surface water, you're into very, very cold water that can induce hypothermia quickly.
Yeah. So do you get a lot of people out here swimming?
We get lots of people swimming all year long, which is great. We want people to come down and use the beach and the waterfront. We've got beautiful outdoor spaces in Hamilton. The lake is a fantastic place to spend time with friends and family. It's a fantastic place to exercise and be outdoors. But just like you said earlier, you got to do it safely.
Yeah. So what should we tell people, or what should people know when they want to come down to the beach or come down to the lake and they want to go swimming and have a good time?
Absolutely. So I know my partner covered off some of these issues a few minutes ago, but I'll reiterate some of them. Even if you're not going to be out on the water in a boat, it's still a good idea to check weather conditions before you come to the beach. It could have a huge impact on the quality of the day that you're going to have. If there's a strong offshore breeze, you're going to want to make some decisions about what you're going to do in the water. That may be a really good day to avoid paddleboarding, kayaking, canoeing, or floating on a floaty. You want to pay attention to not getting blown offshore even as a swimmer, because you may find yourself well offshore outside of the range that you're able to swim back.
Yeah, and I said earlier, this isn't a swimming pool in your backyard, right? I think the type of swimmer and how good you are of a swimmer makes a big difference, right? You could be swimming great in your backyard pool with a 4-foot deep end, right? You come out here, we have temperature, waves, all sorts of things that come in. How does that play a factor?
Well, there's no doubt. The currents, the waves, the winds, these things all have a significant impact on your ability to swim. It makes it significantly more difficult to maintain a cadence of swimming when you're fighting your way through waves. It takes a significant amount of experience swimming in those waters to be able to do that. Moving back to the temperature of the water, it's also really important to remember that the colder the water, the bigger the impact on your ability to control your muscle movements. So as you start to get colder and colder, you're going to lose the coordination to move your arms and your legs the way that you would want to swim how you might normally. So a lot of people can find themselves caught out by the conditions, expecting that, hey, I'm a strong swimmer, I spend lots of time in the water, but all that time is in an indoor pool or a backyard pool.
Or heated like mine at 90 degrees, right?
Exactly, and they get out here and all of a sudden the water's 18 degrees, there's currents, there's winds, there's waves, and it's just not the same thing.
Yeah. Now, would you say this is a good place for parents to bring their kids to learn how to swim?
It wouldn't be my first choice to bring a kid for a young child to teach them how to swim. I don't want to discourage people from bringing their families and their children here, but everything just requires that decision-making portion. So if you're in the water and you have young kids, taking your eyes off of them for even a moment is too long. Drownings can happen in less than 20 seconds. You need to stay focused. The younger the children are, you need to be within arm's reach. You need to be actively engaged in what they're doing the entire time they're in and around the water to keep them safe.
Yeah, and I guess, what about parents' ability to swim versus kids' ability? And the kids are in the water. Who can save who?
Absolutely. So we don't have lifeguards along the waterfront, so you are here at your own risk. So if a child was able to swim but the parent wasn't, I would strongly suggest that nobody goes swimming in that scenario, because you need to have a backup plan. If I'm out there swimming, I want to know that you're able to come and get me if I start to struggle. Of course, I would prefer to recognize conditions and limitations of me physically before I ever needed help, but you always have to have a plan B, and that plan B should include at least one other person who can swim that's available to help you.
Yeah, and I think that's important, right? And I'm sure everybody in their time, and I know I have, thought I was a great swimmer. And then I've been put in a condition where I felt, hey, wait a minute, I'm not as good as I thought I was. And that's the moment where you don't want to be in, where you're thinking, uh-oh, how do I get out of this?
Absolutely.
Right?
Things happen quickly in and on the water, and the second you're involving a Great Lake in that equation, things can get out of control really quickly.
Yeah. And I guess, a lot of these tips can, migrate over to other waters as well, right? Rivers, pools, things
Absolutely.
like that. We always want to make sure that you practice some of these. Obviously, you don't have to worry about necessary temperature and wind conditions in a backyard pool, but swimming ability is a big one, right? Because drownings happen not just in Great Lakes, and you guys do rescues not just in Lake Ontario. You do them in all the bodies of water in Hamilton, right? That would be, the parks and community areas and things like that, right?
That's a great point, because a place like Binbrook Conservation Area, for example, that has beaches and swimming, they have lifeguards. You don't want to rely on their safety systems, like, oh, the kids are fine, they're in the water, there's a lifeguard. You still need to take that active role and making sure your children are safe. On top of it, drowning is a risk in any body of water, big or small, hot or cold.
Yeah.
If there's water involved, it's dangerous.
Yeah, sure. And are you out preaching to everybody this week? Are you stopping people and trying to talk about drowning safety?
Well, we try not to do too much preaching. We like to educate them as much as we can.
There we go. There's a good word.
Yeah. We like to encourage everybody to be as safe as they can be on the water, because that's how you're going to have the most amount of fun. I manage our Twitter account, and this week we've been sending out a message geared towards Drowning Prevention Week every single day. A number of our policing partners in Niagara and Halton have been doing a lot of educational work as well on the waters. There's lots of resources out there about how you can be on and in the water safely, and I would encourage people to take a little bit of time to do some research before they bring their family down.
Fantastic, Rob. I think those are all great ideas. I think everybody's got kind of a good sense of what they should do or what they shouldn't do, or maybe better how to prepare or where to look before they want to do something, right? But this is not just a summer thing, right? You guys are out here all year round.
Absolutely. We transition. Now, the water is available for use a lot longer than people would traditionally want to be down here swimming and hanging out on the beach. So we're here on the water usually until late December with boats in the water for rescue purposes. As soon as the boats are out of the water, we transition to ice rescue, and we provide the ice rescue services for the entire city of Hamilton, which is another...
It's another topic altogether,
Absolutely.
Probably for another time,
Yeah.
right? It's nice and sunny. We don't want to be talking about ice at
No,
this
it's
time
too
of
soon,
year, right?
too soon.
We don't want to bring on the winter yet. Rob, listen, I want to thank you, and I want to thank Officer Phibbs as well. It's been a great day. You've got some great tips. Hopefully our viewers, took a bit out of there, and they'll a little better prepare for next time they're out here on the water.
Awesome. It was a pleasure meeting with you.
Thank you, Hamilton, and we'll see you again on another version of Virtual Coffee with the Cop.